Well, thanks to the team for all this morning. Thank you. And thank you for being here. It's great to see everyone. So I'm Reverend Ron Holdaway, and we'll start this part of the service with a meditation. So I invite you to get comfortable in your chair and just prepare to give yourself this gift of just being for a few moments. Nothing to do, nowhere to be, no activity, just a chance to rest and be for just a couple moments. So as we usually do, I invite you to focus on your breath. Take a deep breath in and then fully release. And that's one of the ways that we can practice this idea of letting go, is with this breath. We can do it in a meditation practice. We can do it in a setting like this. We can do it in mindful moments. So just breathe. Just breathe. Take another deep breath in and then inhale and then fully exhale that breath and just settle in to this place. Scan your body with your awareness and your consciousness and just release any place of tension or anxiety, concern or worry in the moment. You can come back to them if you need to, but just let them go for now by breathing into that space. And as you get still in your body, you might feel in your heart space this place where we intuitively know without me telling you or anybody else in a book or anybody telling you, that's the place where the true you resides, where you live and move and have your being in God. And whatever you choose to call this presence, you can find that spot right now. Breathe the truth of your being, that you are loved, guided, and protected right now in this moment. Feel the chair fully supporting your body. Put your hands on your thighs if it's comfortable, and just relax your hands, relax your face, relax your whole body as we do this meditation for just a few moments. If you're joining us on Facebook today, just do the same. Just let the chair or the bed or wherever, the floor, wherever you are, just fully support you in this moment and be at rest. Now as you take another deep breath in, as we've relaxed the body, stilled the body, given yourself this gift for a moment, we still the mind. Our ego mind, that's ego, is also referred to as a monkey brain. We have all these thoughts. That's what it does. We're not trying to control it or let it go. We're just trying not to attach to these thoughts just for a few moments. So if you have thoughts coming into your mind, just let them drift by like balloons. And breathe. So if a thought comes into your mind, just let it go. Don't attach to it for a moment, and then just breathe again. The practice of meditation is when these thoughts drift through, we attach and then we let go. We attach, we let go, and come back to the breath. And breathe. Now briefly, I would like for you to just think for a moment about one thing, more than a thinking, a knowing that you know, something that you need to let go of any resistance that you may have. Let go of any resistance to a condition that is right in front of you, that is the reality of your life, whatever the condition is. I could list thousands. I'm not going to list them. I want them to be yours. Whatever it is right now, what can you do to practice non-resistance. Let it go. It doesn't mean that it's not there. It means that you cannot resist it because it is the reality. Just think for a moment. Pause for a moment in your awareness of something that you can practice non-resistance. And if you can't resist it fully, just what can you move up to? What can you edge it up to resist less? So now as you hold this idea in your consciousness, in your stillness, ready to release and resist less, we hold this in the silence, in the silence, in the silence. As you continue to breathe and rest in this sacred space of your own being, we know that no matter the chaos, no matter the situation on the outer part of our lives, when we pause to rest in this place of stillness, there is peace. We are submerged in peace, surrounded by peace. There is nothing but peace when we go within. Peace, calm, still, undisturbed. Peace. So as you take a deep breath in and fully release it, very gently you can move your fingers or your toes, roll your shoulders, move your head side to side, just to return to this space, this time, this room right now. And feel the peace. Well, I get to look at you while you're doing that, and I think you found the peace. Some of you did for sure. It's wonderful. So as Rose gave an introduction for this, we're using this book, The 5 Invitations, Discovering What Death Can Teach Us about living fully. And if you can catch up on some talks if you want to on Facebook. YouTube had a problem last week, but I'm putting them on Facebook too, just the meditation and the talk, so you catch up with that too. So if you missed last week, you can find out about it. So the 5 invitations, discovering what death can teach us about living fully. I keep switching that, a little bit of dyslexia, I guess. So here's the 5 invitations that he offers in the book. Don't wait, welcome everything, push away nothing, bring your whole self to the experience, find a place of rest in the middle of things, cultivate don't know mind. So all of those can take us down a path of contemplation and meditation and just contemplating where we are in our life. So the second invitation today, welcome everything, push away nothing. The description of that sounds almost ominous in a way. I mean, what in the world do you mean welcome everything? What is that? What do you mean? The good and the bad? Yes. Who categorizes it as good or bad? You do. Welcome everything, push away nothing. And the premise of that is that our suffering, and I'll get into that in more detail, is not caused by the condition, usually, that we're in, whether it's a grief, loss, and I'll get into that here in just a second. It's caused by the resistance. It's a resistance to what is. So there's several things in here that we can that we'll get to, but Jack Kornfield, who you probably know is a meditation trainer, he says we can struggle with what is. We can judge and blame others or ourselves, or we can accept what cannot be changed. Peace comes from an honorable and open heart, accepting what is true. Do we want it to remain stuck? Do we want to remain stuck, or release the fearful sense of self and rest kindly where we are? So the issue there is don't resist. The pain, the situation is going to be there likely. The suffering is caused when we resist. So I want you to look at this quote about the barns. This is one of the quotes in the chapters in the book. Barns burnt down now. Barns burnt down now. I can see the moon. So I want you to think, just what does that mean to you? What comes to you when you hear that? Barns burnt down. The apostrophe shouldn't actually be there in that barns. It should just say barns burnt down. Now I can see the moon. Somebody have an idea of what that means? What does it mean to you? I mean, it can mean a lot of things. Can take you a lot of places. What does it mean? Somebody?
Obstruction.
Huh?
The barn was an obstruction.
To seeing the moon. Yeah. So how does that relate to life? Huh?
Finding beauty in loss.
Yeah. Maybe it's the cloud in the silver lining in whatever is happening to our lives. So if the barn burns down, you can see the moon. If something got it.
I'm going to say removing objects or obstacles to see God.
Yeah, you can see. I can see that. That's a metaphor for a lot of things, isn't it? So these blocks in our life, really, and the big thing is resistance. Not accepting what is, non-acceptance. Acceptance is the act of opening up to painful feelings and sensations that we might otherwise want to avoid or fight. So as hard as it is to believe, acceptance can open different opportunities for change, more change than resistance. Rumi says it this way: the moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door will open for change to occur in your life. When a tragic loss occurs, this is from Eckhart Tolle, when a tragic loss occurs, you either resist or yield. Some people become bitter or deeply resentful. Others become compassionate, wise, and loving. Yielding means inner acceptance of what is. You are open to life. Again, that's from Eckhart Tolle. So in welcoming everything, we don't have to like what's rising up in front of us. It's actually not our job to approve or disapprove what's rising up in our lives. This is according to Frank, what he talks about. The word welcome comforts us. He describes, he had to describe you're welcome, how we say you're welcome in the U.S. He's married to a British woman, and he had to explain what that means, you're welcome. When we say that, it's an act of love. We're loving the fact that we're able to welcome you. So he says the word welcome comforts us. It asks us to temporarily suspend our usual rush to judgment and to simply be open to what is happening. So the second invitation, welcome everything, push away nothing. The idea of that for him, and again, this is from his experience being a hospice he says he's spent was on the bed for 1,000 people dying, counseling. And the stories in this book, I can't get into all the stories. We'll do a couple of them here. But the stories are just tug at your heart. They do. Becky, you've read a couple of them. They really do. So as is, one of the concepts he brings up, as is. It is as it is. Whatever is in front of us, the reality of a situation, it is as it is. When we resist, it's when the suffering occurs. So this is a very Buddhist teaching. He's a Zen Buddhist, by the way. He runs this Zen hospice organization is what he created. So he says, in the Buddhist way of thinking, openness is one of the key characteristics of an awake and curious mind. It does not determine reality, it discovers it. We don't determine the reality, it discovers us. Openness welcomes paradox and contradiction. It permits whatever needs to emerge to emerge. Openness means keeping our hearts and minds available for new information, experiences, for growth. Having tolerance for the unknown. That's not easy to do, is it? Welcoming bad times and good times as equally valid experiences. So, one of the things I was reading in the book, so instead of this OMG, oh my gosh, or something, when you see a situation in our lives, whatever it is, if it's an illness, whatever it is, instead of saying, oh my gosh, you can say, of course. Instead of resisting the situation, you just say, of course. That's the way life is. That's what happens. We lose our job, of course. You can get into we can get in as terrible a situation and as stressful as it is when you lose a job. Or another example I thought about was you get kicked out of there's many of us here that don't have a job. That's not stressful for us because most of us don't have a job. Some of us do. But another, like getting kicked out of your apartment for whatever reason. The landlord had a bad day or whatever. Very stressful situation. But of course it's going to happen. Things like that happen. And we don't have to wallow, if you will. The pain of the situation is inevitable. The suffering is optional. The pain is inevitable. The suffering is optional. Openness does not reject or get attached to a particular experience or view. It is a spacious, undefended, non-biased allowing. A total acceptance, it means welcoming the bad times and the good times as valid experiences, as I said. So he also says in here, which at first pass it might seem to contradict what we talk about in unity of affirmations and denials, because he says, Denial breeds ignorance and fear. I cannot be free if I am rejecting any part of my experience, or whatever experience. The rejected experience will keep showing up like a bad penny. So at first pass, affirmations and denials are a keystone to what we talk about in unity and new thought. We don't deny, but if you look at it, that's not what he's saying. We don't deny the situation. We don't deny the situation. We deny that it has any power over us. It doesn't have any power. We can choose to see it differently. Again, it's like the barn's being burnt. We can see the moon. We don't have to see the situation as something that's going to eat us up. So actually, to me, it's the same. With the denial, we deny the situation. So I was teaching this, I think we were at the temple. I forget, but I was going through this. Lessons in Truth is the great book for the Unity Primer is Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. And that's the first place where I started reading about affirmations and denials. So I was sharing that with everybody. And I was in my truck that day. So as I was driving home, I pulled down a road, and there was a lot of gravel on the road, and I kind of slid, and I think I slid off the road. Well, the tire blew out. I had a tire that blew out. So I had just given the example about the flat tire, that the flat tire has no power over you. You can get all hot and bothered, and we frequently do when things like that in our life happen. Instead of saying, OMG, of course it's going to happen. You're going to get a flat tire. But here I am. What am I going to do? Start ranting and raving or fussing about this? I had to be somewhere. But no, I started laughing. And so then I had to walk a little over a mile home. It was outside. I had to walk and it called that. It didn't even have it didn't even have a spare on this truck the way it's kind of arranged. But again, it just happens. So be careful. Some of you may have a flat tire. Maybe I'll have another flat tire. But the flat tire happened. The flat tire happened. It doesn't have any power to upset my day. It can't upset my day unless I choose that. There's a story in the book about David wanting to sit down with his brother who had just passed. His brother had a long history of being an alcoholic. He would go on binges, and then he would get sober and then go on a binge and just be on the street. He was a street alcoholic. Well, his other brother called him and to tell him that his brother had died. It was in Kentucky, and so he was there. And he went to the funeral home, and he wanted to be with his brother. They hadn't got him ready yet. He had just gotten to the funeral home. So he asked the funeral director if he could put him in a room and just be with him. He just wanted to sit by him. Just that, you know what I mean, the energy of that. Very Zen-like thing to do. A very Buddhist thing from what I read, thing to do. But then he was sitting there, and then all of a sudden his brother's ex-wife walked into the room. And she was a drug addict and a street addict. And so she came in and started just, you can imagine the chaos, and why does he do this? Why has he got a tag on his toe? And what happened to his face? And all these kind of questions. And David, the author, just wanted to be with him, just wanted to be with his brother. And so instead of forcing it and getting angry, he accepted the moment and said, this is what it is. This is the way it's going to be. So, and he didn't actually say this, but as I read that, it's the way his brother was. It's his brother's wife with this ex-wife. Lorraine was her name. And so, but he didn't push it. He accepted the situation for what it was rather than, so he said at first he was angry, but he stopped himself to avoid forcing the events. He wanted to be with his brother. Well, the reality was this is the way he was going to be with his brother. This was it. This was the way. Loud, chaotic, noisy. So he decided to let it go. And then it wasn't, so she left, and it wasn't just but a couple of minutes. They had to come get his brother and get him ready for service. So he let it go. Welcoming everything, pushing away nothing is neither a foolish nor an idealistic invitation. On the contrary, it is eminently practical, accepting life as it means that we make peace with the things as they are rather than trying to force them to be the way we want them. Everything. It's neither foolish nor idealistic invitation. So, you've heard me talk about my little Chihuahua. I mean, this applies to everything. This accept everything, push away nothing. So this little 3-pound Chihuahua had a hernia on the back part of her, on her butt, and so it was a little bump. She weighed 3 pounds. Her name's Baby. This was back in November, early November. So my wife and I both were all concerned whether she should do it, small like that. I took her to Tallahassee to the vet over there. It's a very prominent vet specialist. So I went over there, met the doc. They were any of y'all experienced that place is just amazing. It's just amazing. So, and of course, all of them instantly fell in love with Baby. She was just that way, 3 pounds, and she was just full of love. So the nurses and the staff dressed her up and walked her around in a little tutu they put on her and just walked her around. So she was loved. So the surgery occurred on Thursday. I went and got her on Wednesday afternoon. I went and got her on Friday. Met the doctor, Dr. Harvis. Harvis is his name. Super guy. And met all the staff, of course, the ladies that were taking care of her. So I took her home. Well, she started having a hard time breathing, and Monday, that I took her Friday, took her to the vet out here, and she passed. So my first thought was, out of hurt, this is so traumatic, wanted to blame somebody. Y'all told me this was not going to happen. And then I realized, well, it's not anybody's fault. I mean, it happens. Accepting it the way it is. Doesn't mean I don't grieve. Doesn't mean that you don't grieve in a loss. That's what Frank is emphasizing so deeply. We still grieve. We still have experiences. We still process them. We don't resist. That's the way it is. So, because I didn't resist, I called them. They sent flowers and a card. Several of you sent cards to Baby too. And because I didn't resist, I think I've got friends from them for life. Don't resist. Here's what happens when you resist. There's pain, there's resistance, and then there's suffering. Without the resistance, there's the suffering. The pain's still there. The loss of Baby is still there. But I'm not suffering. I still remember her. And the silver lining is friends that still email me occasionally. Amazing. If I had gotten angry and pushed and blamed somebody, it's got to be, which is, when we lose somebody. Now I was starting to minimize it. It's not minimize it when we lose a pet. There's no minimizing about it. A pet or a loved one or an illness or an ill child or whatever it is, whatever we resist with the pain is what generates the suffering. Suffering is about perception and interpretation. The perception of the situation of the pain at the moment. Pain is inevitable in our human journey. Some people even in our positive, desire for positive thinking, we want to say, push it away. The pain is inevitable, according to what David Artatsky says. It's inevitable. And he saw it sitting with 1,000 patients in a hospice. The suffering comes when you resist what's real. If you are alive, you will experience pain. There is pain from which there is no escaping. So, again, all the things that we can think in our lives that can cause us pain. Pain and suffering are two different experiences, according to what David says, and he gives all kinds of examples about it. So he says, what should we do? How do we do this? We turn toward our suffering. We turn toward it. When it comes up, when you feel you're resisting, and that's what I want you to hold in thought in meditation, what are you resisting? We can let it go. Hold it and then move toward it. It may seem sad, may seem very dark, but if we are willing to brave the darkness, become willing to welcome everything, and then push away nothing, the energy that has been consumed by resistance to life's unwelcoming events will now be available to contribute to healing, building resilience, and acting with love. Pain plus resistance equals suffering. So he goes on to say that time after time after example is about love, in sharing the presence of people on their, in hospice. It's about love. Love breeds love. So if you're willing to take this invitation, this is what he says about death, but if you're willing to take the invitation this week, the second invitation, reject nothing, or at least work on it to rejecting it less or resisting less. It is as it is. Turn toward your suffering and remember that love heals. When we say that we want to be receptive to whatever presents in our life, we're not meaning letting life walk all over us. Not at all. Just be open, receptive. We have options when we're open and receptive. To welcome everything is an act of love. So next week, Melissa will do the third invitation. Bring your whole self to the experience. Namaste.
Thank you, Ron and Rose. Thank you, and Tim and Rosalita, and Chris and Steve back there. All right. As we end our service, we get ourselves in a big circle, join hands, and sing our peace song. And the words are on the screen for you.